What you and I are both looking at here in regard to restoration velocity is basically crossing that Rubicon between what was once seen as hype, in this case, rosemary extract in regard to wound closure, and becoming a potentially very powerful medical tool. Now look at this. Within 14 days on this line chart, what you're seeing is 65% wound closure compared to 20% of basically just doing nothing. That is pretty amazing. We'll come back to this line chart in a second. But what researchers did here is they want to take what I would consider crowdsource information as far as hype or hyperbole. And what they found out is the crowd in this case was quite correct. Rosemary appears to be a very powerful healing tool, especially not only with just closing the wound itself, but make sure the scar is mitigated as much as possible. Again, I don't want to add publisher bias, but let's get right into the research as follows. Here we go. Research revealed rosemary extract in viral skincare trend is worth the hype, meaning there's no hype. Research revealed rosemary extract in viral skincare trend is worth the hype. Many skin injuries end in scars, and in some people it can lead to long-term cosmetic, even functional issues. Quoting, our findings suggest that rosemary extract, and specifically the antioxidant carnosic acid, can shift the healing process from scarring to healthy skin regeneration. Again, emphasize the word regeneration. Quote, we don't have proven ways to consistently do that in humans. We demonstrate that rosemary extract promotes scarless wound healing. And I want to reiterate that word as well, or repeat, scarless wound healing. In mouse skin, and identify carnosic acid as an active ingredient. We show that rosemary activates the TRP1A1 transient receptor potential. I want to say Anakin and Chiron. One Anakin, we know what that involves. On sensory nerves, promote tissue regeneration. And they also did a great video. So if you want to see a really nice explanation, it's really simple and short, go to their video. Great explanation. The inspiration for the study stemmed from an unusual place, TikTok and Instagram. After seeing beauty influencers and other social media users touting the skin healing benefits of homemade rosemary extract serums and products with rosemary. Don't want to mispronounce the names, but great people. Then they did what all good scientists do. They went to the lab and ran their own test. That is the backstory. What they discovered was as follows. Rebuilding the skin versus patching the wounds. And that's a good way of putting it. Now, they took the TikTok hype and they discovered as follows. The wounds just didn't patch up. They regenerated. Hair follicles, sweat glands, in fact, grew back, features that would normally vanish in scar tissue, i.e. fibrosis. Once again, has to be topical. As proceed forward, the forest versus the parking lot. Doing nothing, standard scar formation, so on and so forth. But the rebuild forest, soft elastic skin, regrowth of hair follicles and sweat glands return, nerves regrow for full touch, like it almost never happened except for the ouchie. How it works? All right, the carnosic acid, it's really weird. It's like, for example, your body has the ability to heal and do this pretty much on its own, but this transient receptor potential and Chiron 1 is kind of like the messenger, the Paul Revere, let's say, not going to get into lore, in regard to telling the body to start the healing process. And the carnosic acid from the rosemary says, hey, I know you can do this, now go ahead and do it. Henceforth, that's how it works. The restoration velocity, which you and I both witnessed before, and also too, a short note in reference to the shopper's guide. Work with your healthcare professional, obviously, the caveat, and look for next ethanol extraction. And it gives you a little bit of an idea on how they made their formula. They just went down to the supermarket, bought rosemary, and made their own ethanol extract. Pretty ingenuitive. You know what I mean. All right, so basically that's where we have ingenuity. All right, and therefore that's what we're looking at in regard to the ethanol extract. Now, let's get into the conclusion, and now to break down the technical as far as studying the study towards the end. Therefore, the audience could take the information they have right now and go with it, but we want to go a little more detail. And just as a trigger warning, we're looking at a little bit of the wound closure in regards to the rosemary extract compared to nothing at all. So you're going to see some pictures, just a heads up. So here we go. Nothing bad, just like ear holes. All right, quote. We demonstrate that the topical rosemary extract enhances mammalian skin repair. Rosemary activates that transient receptor potential and chiron, 1, sensory neurons to induce these effects, and carnosic acid with rosemary leaves acts as an active ingredient. Indeed, this work confirms that rosemary oils and creams, as reported on many social media sites, may reduce fibrosis and improve skin repair. Plant extracts have been long used in traditional medicine, but oftentimes the active ingredient remains unknown or unidentifiable. We successfully identified that carnosic acid in rosemary leaves is a key biologically active component that promotes scarless tissue regeneration. The results demonstrate that the enthusiasm publicized on social media may be correct, and rosemary-containing extracts reduce mammalian skin for scar formation. Again, animal study, this is this one. These results, coupled with widespread accessibility of the rosemary plant and its relatively low cost, should motivate formal testing of rosemary-containing creams to reduce scar formation in human clinical trials. How much, how long, so on and so forth, all the particulars. Now, talking about the particulars, let's get right into the research details as follows. All right, so here you have the carnosic acid, skin repair. This is for the healthcare professional. You could pause, look through it, and read on your own. All right, and clinical caveats and so on and so forth. It's still very impressive just the same. All right, the methodology, replication, and so on and so forth for the researchers. Again, the carnosic acids there, but ursolic acid and things like that also have shown benefits in other arenas. So, you know, as far as skin and scar formation or mitigating that, the carnosic acid may be a primary driver, but I don't want to toss out the other elements as well, especially, for example, like ursolic acid. All right, and also, too, this is just the first wave of things that help the body communicate. So, for example, we look at the transient receptor potential and chiron 1, and it's communicating with that. And then, for example, you may take some of these copper tripeptides and the same thing, and the body has the ability to heal and reverse a lot of age effects. It just needs the proper message in order to do the job, which is quite intriguing on its own. All right, so you look at the cold ethanol extraction, so on and so forth. Boom. Here come our pictures. Ear holes. And here we have the control. Now check this out. Look at the control. Now look at the rosemary extract itself after week 4. That's pretty telling. You don't need a line chart to show the benefit there, but there you have it right next to the wound closure per se with the ear compared to nothing at all in weeks. That is pretty darn telling, and that's going to give us part of our p-value down below, statistical significance below the 0.05 threshold. And so, for example, too, they also tested the carnosic acid without the transient receptor potential, well, just TRPA1- positive. Without that, and the rosemary, the carnosic acid in the rosemary, failed to generate similar effects as it did with the TRPA1 plus in play. So that is pretty amazing all on its own. And yeah, I think that's about it on that. So, incredible discovery, a great way to crowdsource lore, and basically incorporate it and say, hey, maybe there's some truth there after all. Remove the selection bias and the biases itself. Let the researchers do the job. And boom. Turns out they discovered something which many people had a hunch about, but they explain it in far better detail. Again, good little video on their site as well, too. Real brief, not as long as ours, but still just the same. And good, simple explanation. Gratitude to this wonderful team for the research. Rosemary is turning out to be quite positive. I am humbled you watch and look forward to what both you and I discover once again next week. All right, catch you all next time. See you then. Bye.